for comedy, there's so much timing involved,
It's all
and like
timing,
what
yeah.
what you're saying, like just knowing where the writers are coming from on a
Hmm.
comedic level and all of that. So it's really interesting. But are there other tricks to editing comedy that you've realized throughout the years as you've been editing Conan and all these other shows?
A lot of it, honestly, is kind of staying out of its way.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is there's a tendency in editing sometimes to give things a lot of window dressing, a lot of aesthetic pluses, certain amount of color, certain amount of effects, sound effects, sort of thing. Where especially when it comes to sound, because the bottom line in comedy is if you don't hear the joke, there's no laugh. So any kind of window dressing you're putting on top of something, sound effects, music, if anything is stepping on the joke, you'll hear this term a lot when you're editing comedy is don't step on it.
Hmm.
Because if you step on the joke, it's blown and it's just going to go away.
Yeah.
That can be visual as well. It's not just audio, because sometimes comedy, uh, man on the, not going into too much of a deep dive, but man on the street comedy tends to be a very done on a wide shot.
Hmm.
And the reason why is man on the street comedy is based on host reactor. And you want the host to throw something out there and you want to see the live reaction
Mm-hmm.
of the person he's talking to. Now, sometimes you'll punch into the live person because you really want to punch the joke because the joke sometimes isn't about what's said, but how they're reacting to what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, you want that live interaction in between the two because when you edit too much of Man on the Street comedy, it feels fixed. It feels fake. It feels like you're
Hmm.
manufacturing moments.
Yeah.
Um, so if you're going into a close up, it better be to punch something up because if it's not, or sometimes to cover an edit. But honestly, like Man on the Street comedy, you can jump around. No one really cares. Now, scripted comedy,
Mm-hmm.
on the other hand, it's about delaying reaction to things. And that's kind of the rhythm of it. So the reason why you use tight shots really is like you're trying to delay having the audience see what the other person is thinking about what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
The Office is a great example of that. Stick
Yeah.
the camera on Michael Scott, let him say what he's going to say, and then until you absolutely have to, you wait to cut to that other person
Mm-hmm.
to see what they're going to do, see how they feel about something.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a lot of wasted edits in comedy, like in terms
Yeah.
of just go to a close up for someone just staring. Like there's no, unless you're really trying to cut or overcut something that just went terribly. There's very little wasted motion to me. The other trick to it is specific to late night. A lot of what we do is spoofing segments. If we're doing the cold open to Spider-Man,
Mm-hmm.
Into the Spider-Verse, is about taking and recognizing the aesthetics of the original piece and how you can use those as a joke.
Hmm.
But it's always for the sake of the joke. You're never
Yeah.
dressing anything up just to make it look pretty. You're never dressing
Mm-hmm.
anything up to make it look slick, pretty slick. None of that matters
Mm-hmm.
unless there's a reason to do it.
Yeah.
The rest of it really, there tends to be a rhythm to things. And it's a very difficult thing to explain sometimes. And there's this, Pixar released this movie in the past year called Soul.
Mm-hmm.
And I forget what they call the actual term, but it was that, being in that creative zone.
Yeah.
And when you're putting together, especially like a comedy piece, it's like I can hear the song of it in my head. And part of that came from doing a number of years as a performer. You could read a script and kind of like hear the way it should go.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of feel that. And so it got to the point, you know, I've cut thousands of sketches at this point.
Yeah.
It got to the point towards the end, like if you handed me a script of a mock commercial, I could cut it with solid colors in my timeline. You know, I could lay it out before I got a bit of footage, as long as I had a voiceover. You know, if it, you know, that, you know, tired of, you know, buying a $2 lottery ticket and winning $1, why don't you buy a $3 lottery ticket and buy $5? You know, that kind of, because you hear it in your head and you're like, yeah, I know what this is.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of mock commercials, it'll be that the dark opening, you know, the we're living in a world where no one could go outside. You know, you hear that drone and maybe like a couple moving pictures. And we actually did we did a piece of this, and I wish I could remember the name of it. Jose Arroyo, one of our writers, wrote it, and literally the promo was describing how to cut a promo. And we the audience didn't completely go for it, but we thought it was hilarious because it exposed the whole thing. Because it was like, tired of hearing really deep voices talk in the beginning. Tired of moving photos, even though we're in 2020, you know. And, but then, you know, the music changes, and then all of a sudden the announcer's like, you know, now try our new product, you know, Boba Fett bobblehead, you know, and then and then you say 2 lines about Boba Fett bobblehead, and then you list 10 jokes in a row that are, you know, hopefully pretty funny. Yeah. And then in the end, you reiterate the product, you know, Boba Fett bobblehead. Bet you can't buy just one. Get one now, $9.99, you know, something like that. So there's a rhythm to it, like that, you know, you would get in your brain about it, and it's meant to be that way. These things are meant to have a rhythm. You're not really there to reinvent the wheel. That's very rare, because the wheel is there to give people comfort, especially in late night programming where people are like trying to fall asleep. They want the comfort of that rhythm.